Hello and welcome to Learning with Lovo. Today is another Harrier specific video focusing on the Case 1 and 2 carrier recoveries. I'll go over the basics, narrate a step-by-step example and then show full examples. Check the timestamps if you wish to skip ahead. Leave me a comment if you think I've missed anything or have a request for a video you'd like to see in the future. Also, see my Patreon information in the description for extras and more content. Let's start with the basics. You're done with your mission and want to land on the carrier. You have two choices of carrier with the AV-8B, those being the Tarawa, a Tarawa class LHA amphibious assault ship, or one of the Nimitz class nuclear aircraft carriers. The process of landing on either of these ships would be: contact the Marshal controller to announce inbound and get instructions, go to the holding pattern as instructed, hold until it is your turn to approach, join the landing pattern, transition to the hover, and finally land. The cases. The cases refer to the weather around the carrier and therefore the holding patterns and landing approaches used. As the worse the weather, the greater the separation needed between aircraft and the greater control needed from the approach controllers. Case 1 refers to weather good enough that you are under visual meteorological conditions, or VMC, for the entire time. They define it as a cloud ceiling of more than 3,000 feet and visibility of 5 miles or greater. You would proceed straight to the Delta holding pattern and begin your landing pattern when given the Charlie signal. More on this later. Case 2 is slightly worse weather, 1,000 foot cloud ceiling and 5 mile visibility minimums. In this case, we have good enough weather to fly VMC around the ship, but not good enough to fly ourselves to the ship. So we conduct an ATC controlled approach, then perform the same Case 1 pattern when we arrive at the ship. Interestingly, the AV-8B has procedures for Case 1 and 2 night recoveries, in contrast to the Hornet that switches to Case 3 in the dark. Now let's take a closer look. First contact, or inbound. It's worth mentioning up front that the AI comms for the Tarawa are fairly limited, and seem to be the comms implemented for the Nimitz class. I'll go over the comms as you may expect them to be in something like real life, and highlight how these differ from the in-game comms at the time of making this video. Your RTB and need to know where the carrier is from you. This is where the TACAN comes in. It will allow you to know the direction and distance to the carrier. You'd want to contact the carrier before entering its control area, which is usually 50 nautical miles away. You can find the TACAN and COM information in the briefing information or knee boards if available. Enter the TACAN information by pressing the TCN button on the upfront controller or UFC. Entering the TACAN channel with the number keys, and if ON isn't already displayed, pressing the ON/OFF button. You should also ensure the options on the option display unit to the left of the UFC match the TACAN information you have found. When approaching 50 nautical miles, input the carrier's radio frequency into one of your radios by either scrolling to the correct channel or entering it into the current channel with the UFC number keys and pressing enter. You can now select the carrier from the ATC COM menu and select inbound. Your pilot will now check in with the Marshal controller with your modex as well as the modex of any wingman, your location from the carrier, altitude and lowest fuel state, and in real life they may also report their remaining loadout. The carrier will then respond with the weather, correct altimeter setting, the case that is in effect, the BRC or base recovery course, and then the next instruction for the current case recovery, including the approach time or Charlie time in minutes past the hour. In real life, we could also expect instructions to dump fuel to a certain amount. Let's continue with Case 1 from here. We'll come back to Case 2 shortly. Case 1, day. Proceed toward the carrier and select See You at 10 from the comms menu when you're within 10 miles and can see the carrier.
010, see you at 10.
The controller will get you to update your fuel state and pass you to tower. There isn't currently an option to check in with tower, however, when you are 3 miles from the ship, you will automatically check in. Select the radar altimeter. Continue to the ship and enter the Delta, which is the VMC pattern around the carrier. It consists of a counterclockwise racetrack pattern centered on the ship. You should remain within 5 miles DME of the ship at all times. Holding altitude start at Angels 2 and will be assigned by ATC. As we don't have this yet in DCS, if in multiplayer, I'd recommend using both your radio and your eyes to see if there are already aircraft in the delta and then find a safe altitude. If in single player, just use your eyes or perhaps the F10 map. If alone, just join the delta at 2,000 feet. I couldn't find it specified anywhere, so I'll just recommend flying this at 250 knots. By now, your pilot would have checked in with tower.
0. Overhead Angels 2.5. State 3.5.
010. Tower, roger. BRC 331. Signal is Charlie.
010.
Unlikely being given the signal as Charlie message. This means you have permission to enter the landing pattern. When you are on the downwind section of the delta and clear of traffic below you, start a descent to pattern altitude, which is 800 feet. Accelerate to 350 knots and perform a turn so as to be approaching the carrier from the rear by 3 miles DME. I'll note here as well that there seem to be no working comms after this. You only get an option to say Clara once in the groove and it doesn't seem to do anything, resulting in an LSO grade of NC, no proper communications. In future, we may expect a radio call stating you're at the initial, where the tower would give you the winds and permit you to continue or enter the break. But for now, we can just carry on. Continue this way and fly past the right side of the ship. 10 seconds after passing the bow, extend the speed brake and conduct a level left-hand turn at 4G or 10 AOA, whichever comes first, finishing the turn after 180 degrees. As you pass 250 knots, retract the speed brake, set nozzles to 50 to 60 degrees, descend to 600 feet, trim to 10 to 12 degrees AOA and follow the landing checklist. Lower the gear, select full flaps, check the stow stop is clear and no warning lights are on. External lights are set to off in the daytime, set water to take off and then throttle up to ensure the water light comes on and then throttle down and set water to landing. You should soon now be approaching the abeam position to the ship. In real life we could expect another radio call here with us checking in with the LSO and the LSO letting us know our landing spot. The landing spots on the Tarawa are labelled on the deck, with 7.5 or halfway between 7 and 8 being the primary spot. If the deck is completely clear, aim to use spot 7.5. If not, you'll have to use your judgment as to which spots will be clear. Let's continue. The turn to final is a 20 to 25 degree turn with a gradual descent to reach 400 to 450 feet at the 90. When the turn happens depends on the headwind. If the headwind is greater than 20 knots, turn before you are abeam the attended landing spot. 10 to 20 knots, turn abeam to the attended landing spot. Fewer than 10 knots, delay 2 to 4 seconds past abeam to the landing spot. When it's time, conduct your turn as I've described to finish 3/4 to 1/4 of a mile behind the ship at 300 to 325 feet. Take a 3 degree descent to the ship. This is called the groove. As you approach the ship, line up about a plane's width to the left of the deck. This is an offset approach. We will select hover stop on the nozzles to bring your speed to match that of the ship as you reach level with the landing spot. Hover stop being about 80 degrees. We would expect a transmit hover stop on the radio to the LSO when we select it, who would confirm our landing position or wave us off. Then, as we approach the spot, the LSO would clear us to cross over onto the deck. As these comms are not implemented yet, you can perform these maneuvers without comms. You should maintain 120 feet as you come to a halt next to your spot. You will now have to balance the throttles, nozzles and reaction jets to keep yourself stable and at the same attitude as you have now left wing-borne flight and are in jet-borne flight. This will mean constant inputs on the stick to use the reaction jets on the nose and wingtips and tail to keep the aircraft as you need it. Try to keep the witch's hat about 2 degrees above the horizon. When you are settled, you can make a level transition to place yourself above the landing spot. If there is a crosswind, you can rotate yourself into it first, using the wind vane on the nose as a cue. We'd expect the LSO to clear us to land here, but once again it isn't implemented yet. Slowly reduce power and land on the intended spots with wheel brakes on. Congratulations, you performed a Case 1 recovery. Put your nozzles back to 10 degrees, turn off water, retract the flaps and taxi away. Night Case 1. The only differences I can find for a Case 1 night recovery is that you would set the external lights to anti-collision on, position lights dim, and formation lights on with the external lights master switch set in the NVG position. There are also small differences with the landing pattern. The beam position is wider, 1 to 1.3 miles, and higher, you remain at 800 feet. The downwind is longer, so the 180 is 1.5 to 1.7 miles DME. This knocks on to having the 90 at 600 feet and the groove starting at 1.3 to 1.5 miles and 500 to 550 feet. Also, when it works, you can make use of the OLS, or Optical Landing System, a light array similar to that on the Nimitz class carriers. This would only be visible in a 20-degree cone behind the ship, so you'd only see it on final, and may lose it as you draw next to the landing spot. In real life, it seems Harrier pilots perform a ball call of Modex Harrier Ball if they use the OLS, or Modex Clara if they can't see it. Once you touch down, turn off all exterior lights except for formation lights. Let's take a look at Case 2. The differences here are all at the holding and approach parts of the recovery. From the initial to touchdown, it is the same as Case 1. We now introduce the two methods of holding aircraft waiting to land away from the ship. These are called the Marshal. We have the TACAN primary Marshal and the TACAN overhead Marshal. The Marshal controller would let you know which is in effect as you call inbound, as well as your place in the Marshal. The TACAN primary Marshal is a left-hand holding pattern oriented on a 180-degree relative bearing from the BRC, or base recovery course. This is roughly the bearing the ship is steaming in. The holding patterns start at 6,000 feet and 21 miles DME, going up 1 mile and 1,000 feet for every aircraft or group in the Marshal. This point is called the holding fix, and you would start your turn away from the carrier at this point, and also start your approach from here at the given Charlie time. You fly a racetrack pattern with up to 10-mile legs and left-hand turns. The TACAN overhead Marshal is both closer and swung around to one side of the ship. The holding pattern is oriented 30 degrees to BRC and starts at 6,000 feet and 4 miles DME. Once again, the pattern is up to 10-mile legs with left-hand turns. At your Charlie time, you would fly overhead, then away from the carrier to 12 miles, then turn to end up at the gate at 12 miles and on BRC. As I said before, you would fly the given approach until visual with the ship, and then continue as a Case 1. So let's look at these two approaches in more detail. It's worth noting that, at the time of making this video, it seems as if the AI ATC can only give you the supercarrier Marshals. Luckily, this matches the TACAN primary Marshal, so expect to perform that for now. TACAN primary Marshal approach. You have been given your Marshal instructions. Proceed to the holding fix and your altitude. It is helpful to have the TACAN inputted, select it as nav source and use the course dial to select the BRC, which is the reciprocal of your Marshal radial. You now have a distance on your HUD and a line from the radial on your MFD. When you're close to your fix at the correct altitude, slow to 250 knots and select Established from the comms menu.
306. Established Angels 6.5. State 7.4.
306, Roger, state 7-4.
Fly to the holding fix and start your left turn and fly your 10-mile outbound leg. Continue this, ensuring you fly to the holding fix on the inbound leg. You need to fly so as to arrive at the holding fix at your given Charlie time. To help you, there is a stopwatch in the cockpit as well as a clock in the hood. Time a leg and perform your left turn at 37 degrees, or here on your ADI. This should take you 1 minute for 180 degrees. Alternatively, fly your legs to a given time, provided that it doesn't go over 10 miles. So you're at your holding point at your Charlie time. Select Commencing from the comm menu. You will be passed to the approach controller. Be sure to select Check-in after to check in with them.
306. Commencing. State 6.7. Altimeter 29.93.
306. Radar contact 20 miles. Expect final bearing 308. 306. Switch approach.
306. 306. Checking in. 19 miles.
306. BRC 308.
306.
Begin a descent between 4,000 to 6,000 feet per minute. Maintain 250 knots. Use a speed brake if you have to. Select platform on the COM menu as you pass 5,000 feet. As you pass the gate, which is at 12 miles DME behind the ship, you should use the minute to live rule to reduce your rate of descent. The 1 minute to live rule states that your rate of descent in feet per minute should not exceed your altitude in feet. So if you're at 3,000 feet, your rate of descent should be lower than 3,000 feet per minute. Continue this to 1,200 feet and level out. Now we are waiting to be visual with the ship. The COM option is see you at 10. So after 10 miles DME and visual with the ship, select that option.
306. See you at 10.
Update state. Switch tower.
306. State 6.5.
We are now looking to join the landing pattern from the initial, which is 3 nautical miles behind the ship. At this point, your pilot will automatically communicate with the controller. The controller should say signal is Charlie, which means you're cleared into the landing pattern. Descend to 800 feet and 350 knots, and conduct your brake as in case 1.
Tower 306. Overhead Angels 1. State 7.0.
306. Tower, roger. BRC 308. Signal is Charlie.
TACAN overhead Marshal. Here you join the Marshal and hold in the same way, however the BRC and Marshal radial are no longer reciprocals. This is because you are not holding behind the ship but off its starboard bow. You would be given a Marshal radial and DME to hold at in the same way as before. When it is your Charlie time, at your holding fix, start a 4,000 to 6,000 feet per minute descent to reach 1/3 of your Marshal radial altitude, following the minute to live rule. So if you were holding at Angels 6, you would descend to Angels 2. Declare platform as you pass through 5,000 feet. Continue until a little after you pass 12 miles from the ship, then perform a left level turn onto the ship's BRC. Now start a 4,000 to 600 feet per minute descent to 12,000 feet, again following the minute to live rule, to arrive at 12,000 feet by 12 miles DME. Again, this is the gate. Continue to 10 miles DME and declare see you at 10 when visual. From here, it is the same as the TACAN primary Marshal. There you have it, case 1 and 2 for the AV-8B on the Tarawa. In a future video, I will cover the Case 3 carrier landings as well as the lighting aids the Tarawa has, such as the OLS optical landing system, the HAPI horizontal approach path indicator, and the HPI hover position indicator, none of which seem to be working currently. Thanks for watching, Learning with Lovo. Okay, here we are. Case 1, let's get myself trimmed out and steady and start a slow descent because I know I'm pretty close because I've set up the thing. There we go. So TACAN, set it to 1 because I wanted to. Select TACAN down here. Let's make it a little bit more easy to see. Let's get rid of that map, don't like it. Right, here we are again. TACAN, we've got it. We are 42 miles away. Let's check in. Comms are correct. ATC Tarawa inbound.
Marshal 010. Marking maps 074445. Angels 22.5. state 3.8.
Climbing.
010, Mother's
There we
weather
go,
is
altimeter.
10 bus mile. Clear.
2993.
Altimeter is 2993.
Case 1,
Case 1
BRC.
recovery, expected BRC
3,
331. Report see me at 10.
1. There we are. And now if we zoom out, we can see her and the line. That's the mother there. TACAN, that's the course line. So we are 38 miles away. 23,000 feet. So at about it's about 15 miles. We'll start a descent, and I'm just going to line up a little bit behind so that I can turn left. Right into the delta. I know I'm on my own here, so I'm going to aim to go into the delta at 2,000 feet because that's where it starts, and there's nobody else around to get in my way. Check the lights while we're here. Let's get formations on. Everything else can stay off. That's good. Stow stop is clear. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Alright, I'm going to fast forward. Now we've got an RWR return from the 2 ships. Up on 10 miles, so we'll start our 5-degree descent. Trim that out, I'll put controls on for you, there you go. There they are. Ooh. Head tracking issue there. Within 10 miles we can see it, so we can see her at 10.
010. See you at 10.
Update state, switch tower.
010. State 3.6.
And there is no option to switch to tower. It will happen automatically as an overhead call when we are at what would be the initial, but it just does it generally at 3 miles, regardless of what direction you're coming in from. Do that, 13, there we go.
Tower.
There we go.
010. Overhead Angels 11. State 3.6.
010. Tower, roger. BRC 331. Signal is Charlie.
Okay, so
010.
I'm going to say we're in the delta now, so we can only descend in the downwind. So I'm going to maintain this for a second and turn back to BRC, which is 331. As I slow to more reasonable delta speed. There we go. Trimming down as we go. The speed brake in now. Yeah. Got a bit slow thinking about my trim. Okay, we're at about 4 miles, just under. We want to stay within 5 miles, so I'm going to start that left turn onto the downwind delta. There's 5 miles, we timed that pretty well. Oh, 5.1 went over, never mind. So the reciprocal for the BRC would be 151. So that is where we're going to roll out and then begin a descent to... we can make it reasonably straight down to 800 feet for the... because we've got the Charlie signal, so we're cleared to the initial for the brake. So I'm gonna get rid of that RWR for a minute because that is in the way, and make sure I stick to the minute to live rule because that's just a good habit to be in. Switch to the radio altimeter now. There we go. So the initial is obviously on BRC and at 3 miles. So basically directly across from us now, but we can extend a little bit to make sure that we're nice and set up for when we actually get to that point. Oh, I'm a little bit too much descent there. And I'm going to continue that with the turn onto BRC. So if it was a more ordinary, sort of better communications position, we might be expecting to come around here at 12,000 feet and then get cleared to enter the brake. But for now, we're just going straight down to landing pattern altitude for 800. We're a little bit offset to the right there, so I'm going to cut across and then realign shortly. Sort that trim out. And we'll cut back. There's brake speed and there's brake altitude. Bit low. Let's bring that up slightly. So there she is. Take a look, make sure she's not on fire or anything like that. And there's the bow. So we want 10 seconds, so we will turn at the clock at 50 seconds. And there it is. Speed brake out, throttles to idle, level pull, 10 degrees AOA. There it is. Speed brake in. Nozzles around, and gear down, flaps to full, stove top clear, lights off, and then just a water check, so water to take off, throttles to 105, water light comes on, and choose our required water. No warning lights apart from droop, just double check that's not speed brake. Cool, right, and we are approaching a beam. We need to trim, and I need to select V-stall mode, more nozzles. There we go. A little bit high, bring that down, and trim a bit more while we're here. A little bit too much, push that back a bit. Cool, approaching when we want to turn. I'll call it now. Here we go. A bit more descent than that, I think. We want to be, what was it, about 4, so 450 on the 90. And I am higher than that, so I'll bring it down. Just adjust that turn so we turn out nicely. There's 400 and 450, so we'll continue from here. That will be about a 3-degree glide slope, so maybe 2.5, 3 about there. We've got a little bit low on the AOA, so let's just push that back up a little bit. Tends to wobble around as you come into and out of the headwind. 120 is as low as we're going to go, because that's the correct deck height for an LHA. Right then, let's hit BRC about there, a little bit of rudder. 140, we'll reduce the descent so we can control it. 130, push the nose down a bit, don't want to. Now the attitude, okay, nozzle stop, there we are. Now the attitude gets a bit more stick intensive than trimmable necessarily. There's 120, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can keep my peripheral scan going. We've got too slow, a bit more nozzle. And back to stopping nozzle. This little sticky out bit is a good spot for us to be at. A little bit of back nozzle, good. Hold it there. Bit of power. Start our transition. We're drifting forward, so a bit of nozzle. We're pitching up. Control that. Rudder back again. There's a descent. We're going forward. Control that. Bit of rudder. There we are. Oh, it's a bit fast. And ease it, ease it, ease it, ease it. Brakes on. Oof, there we go. Water off. Laps up, nozzles back. And we'll throw on some nose wheel steering.
Caution.
I know. And high gain steer ourselves off of the landing area. Don't really matter where you go. It's not like we can use the elevators and stuff right now, but just get out of the way of anyone who might want to land. And there we are. Okay, here we are, ready for the Case 2 TACAN primary Marshal carrier recovery on the Tarawa. Let us see our distance. I believe that is the right TACAN. Got 50 miles, perfect. And then we want to be on frequency, which is 0.5. There we go. And let's announce inbound.
Marshal 306. Marking maps 117450. Angels 6.5.
And I'll be looking to the right because that's where my pen and paper is while I write down the Marshal instructions.
306. Courage Marshal. Case 2 recovery. CV1 approach. Expected BRC 308. Altimeter
2993.
is 903. 306. Marshal motors 128 radio. 21 DME Angels
21
6. Expected
Angel
approach
6.
time is
22. Cool. Got that.
306. Marshal on the 308. 21 DME Angels 6.
So, radial is 128, but I'm going to put in 308 because it's reciprocal and it basically works the same. 308 for 21. We can hang a left and find our fix there. And we are at Angel 6, which we're basically at now. We've just got to drop a little bit of altitude there. And we want to be at 250 knots by the time we get there as well. So I will start that deceleration now. Looking for DME 21 once we get onto the radial. Let's speed this up a little bit. I can't see my altitude. I'll try and make do. There's 250 knots. My altitude is 5.8, so I need a little bit more, yeah. There we go. Coming up, that's annoying. Get rid of them. There we go. Controls for you. Alright, let's get rid of this map because it just makes it a little bit hard to see. And I guess we can stick at 100 for now. Check the lights, prop formation on. Those stops clear. Everything else is gravy. Right, let's start that right hand turn. So we are, what are we, 13 miles from holding fix on altitude. It should be fine to say commencing.
306.
We are at 13 and the approach time is 22.
Altimeter 29.93.
306. Radar contact. 33 miles. Expect final bearing. 308.
306.
And we're just continuing until I'm actually 308 to the carrier. Fast forward there. I'm getting fast. So you can see down here it's at 305 currently. I'm at 25 miles. So I'll have to turn away soon, which is fine really. Okay, let's start turn on to heading, so our turn away can be the correct time. And here comes 21. I'm going to start the turn now.
306. Switch approach.
306.
Huh? Okay.
306. Checking in. 20 miles.
306. BRC 308.
Might be a glitch in the new update.
306.
I haven't said commencing yet. It's 17. I've still got 5 minutes to my approach time. So I've got 30 seconds of this, and then that leaves me 4:30, 3:30 with the turn. So I've got about a minute and a half legs really. Roll that out. What's the reciprocal? He told us 128, so I'm not quite there yet.
Landing gear.
Oh
landing,
shit.
Gear.
All over the place because that comms is wrong. And I'm a bad pilot. Now autopilot's kicked off, so better retake my holding altitude. Okay, give it to 15 and we'll turn in. There we are. Looking for 308. Lovely. So hopefully it'll take us 2 minutes to get to the holding fix, and we can actually commence. Let's switch to radar now. It won't actually kick in until it can function properly, so there's no reason not to. To see how we did with timing, I've got 2 miles to go in 40 seconds. I don't think that's too bad. So we can pull them up, and for some reason it's auto-selected commence, and I don't know why, but I'm going to check in now.
306, checking in, 22 miles.
306,
That's
BRC
not bad.
308.
308. So
306,
we're going down 4 to 6,000 feet per minute till 12 miles, maintaining 250 knots. Here comes platform at 5,000 feet.
306, platform.
306, roger.
Aiming for 1,200 feet. I'm using the speed brake, as you can hear. Well, we're going to get close. I'm going to start bringing the minute to live rule in now, because we're getting a little bit low. Means I can bring the speed brake in. And here we are approaching 1,200 feet. Gonna be lazy and get a autopilot on. Coming up on the gate. We are visual, I can see her. So at 10 miles I can select see you at 10. Getting a little bit slow, let's pump that up. The thing about these approaches is they're timed about a minute apart normally, so there could be someone approaching behind me 1 minute behind. So if you don't keep your speed consistent, you can have traffic jams. And we've got some Hornets here coming in for the super carrier over there somewhere. And you can see how they're spaced. Anyway, 10 miles, there we are. 10 miles, see you at 10.
306. See you at 10.
Update state, switched out.
306. State 6.8.
That's about it. We'll have an auto check-in at 3 miles, and as there's no one around, they'll give us the Charlie signal. And then we'll descend to landing pattern to brake altitude and brake speed. Oh, something's chugging. Come on, frame rate. There we go. Alright. Let me pause it while that sorts itself out. Are we good? We're good. Fast forward it a little bit. Take over. Coming up on 3 miles any second now.
Tower 306. Overhead Angels 1. State 6.7.
306. Tower.
Yep,
Roger.
signal is Charlie.
BRC 308. Signal is Charlie.
We need to find ourselves down at 800 feet, 350 knots. There's 800. And there's 350. And there's the ship. And now it's the same as case 1. 10 seconds. Oops. Start your brake. We're pretty far past, but it is a windy day, so I'll let us off. SO grade from the supercarrier. I'm getting ready to select hover stop. Trimming forward a little bit. Something my computer doesn't like down here for frame rate, but we'll crack on. Start inching the nozzles forward now. And there's hover stop. A little bit early, let's bring it forward a little bit. And then back. And slide it to the right. That'll do.